Hey, what's up, dinguses? They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but does that apply to song covers as well? Because when it comes to writing a new song, some artists can't help but to emulate their inspirations and wear it on their sleeves. But in doing so, we find that so much music sounds so similar, at least in English-speaking Western cultures. I mean, just take the 4-chord song, for example, and you get the idea. But why stop there? Why only take the format or chord progression of one song when you can just straight up make a song that's already a song? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the subject of today's video. I've selected over 30 songs between live performances and studio recordings, and we're going to pit them against each other and rank them on a tier list. Also, I suspect that a lot of you watching will no doubt tell me which songs I've left off the tier list, and I encourage you to do just that. There are so many notable covers out there, and I am not going to get close to even scratching the surface in this video. So if you want me to make subsequent videos ranking covers, like and subscribe to tell me that you want more videos of me being an absolute goober, and comment down below for what other covers I should talk about. Lastly, I'd like you all to know that I will be judging these covers based off 3 criteria. 1. Just how good the song is. Do I enjoy listening to it? But a song can be saved and bumped up to a higher ranking even if I don't like it based off of the second element, novelty. And what I mean by this is if a metal band goes ahead and covers a disco song and more or less sticks the landing, that's what I want to see. And finally, if it's better than the original. I know there's a lot of bait out there for this particular point for a lot of songs. And I think you might be surprised to learn which songs we're going to talk about were actually covers just because the covering band or artist completely knocked it out of the park and everybody forgot the OG. So with that said, let's get into it. The first song we're going to talk about is everybody's knee-jerk answer for when asked what's the greatest cover of all time. That is Hurt by Johnny Cash.
I hurt myself today.
And honestly, it's fine. It's okay. This song doesn't really even fit into the novelty aspect of things. Hurt was originally written by 9 Inch Nails, and for all intents and purposes, they are an industrial alternative rock band. But Hurt was a slower song to begin with. I would have been way more interested if Johnny Cash covered Head Like a Hole. Instead, we got one slower song made into another slower song, albeit just with Johnny Cash's old man voice. But my main gripe with this song is that everybody just automatically calls it the greatest cover of all time because Rolling Stone and other publications have said so. I don't think people really think about it all that much, and covers are a huge part of the country genre. Just take Zac Brown, for example. They're basically a touring cover band at this point, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that Johnny Cash would have covered a song that wasn't supposed to be a country song, but it's not even a country song. Sure, it makes sense that Johnny Cash would be singing a song like this because he usually wrote darker songs anyway and had a tough life. And it's a good cover, but not the greatest cover. B tier. Next up is Marilyn Manson's cover of Sweet Dreams, originally by the Eurythmics. I do like how Marilyn Manson kind of transformed the song into this drudgier, kind of darker rock song. But when you're covering God herself, Annie Lennox, well, you gotta hit it out of the park. And by comparison, the song falls a little bit flat. C tier. Moving on into F tier, I'm gonna place every single godforsaken cover that MGK has ever done at any point. Like, there's paying homage to songs that you enjoy and artists who you admire, but there is great value in shutting your mouth and not doing a goddamn thing. That's what you should have done, Mr. Kelly. That's what you should have done. Next up is a song that I don't think a lot of people know is a cover, and that's Red Red Wine by UB40, originally by Neil Diamond. And I think Neil Diamond sucks, so Red Red Wine is definitely much better than the original. Also, let me know if anybody else has this experience, but way too often am I walking around in the grocery store and they're playing whatever grocery store approved playlist there is, and I hear Red Red Wine so often. Let me know if you hear it just as much as I do. Anyway, UB40 made Red Red Wine their undisputed #1 hit, and for that, they're going to go in the A tier with that song. And everybody can start rolling their eyes now as I preach to the choir, but All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix, originally by Bob Dylan, is an S tier cover. It's your standard genius Bob Dylan songwriting, and it was a song kind of made to be rocked out on, and Jimi Hendrix took the opportunity. Harmonica solo fans might be upset at the guitar solo chads here in the audience, but I don't think there's really any disputing this case in particular. S tier all the way. And part of what makes All Along the Watchtower such a good cover to begin with is that Jimi Hendrix took it and made it into this rock anthem juxtaposed from Bob Dylan's more folkier roots. And that's what I like to see in covers. So when I heard that Lil Uzi Vert was going to be covering System of a Down, I got genuinely excited. I was wrong. If you're anything like me and enjoy listening to shit that doesn't hurt your ears, then I think I can safely put Lil Uzi Vert's cover of Chop Suey, or how he called it CS, into D tier. Because Lil Uzi Vert had a great opportunity to put some more hip-hop elements into the song, and all we get is auto-tuned vocals and instrumentals that were sampled straight from the original track, it seems like. D tier, try harder, don't talk to me. So as I was saying just a couple minutes ago, ska and reggae have so many covers between the bands in those genres. Right now we'll take a look at some notable ones from the 90s. First up being Take On Me by Real Big Fish, originally by Aha. And at first glance, this is a tall order. The original Aha version has really held up extremely well since its release damn near 40 years ago. And in my opinion, it might just be the best song of the 1980s. It's definitely the best song written by Norwegians, but nonetheless, I think Real Big Fish absolutely nailed this one. And I'm biased here. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Real Big Fish was the crack that got me addicted to ska. I think I speak for a lot of us out there when I say that. And I'll go as far as to say that I think the Real Big Fish version is better than the original. S tier. But just because it's a ska cover doesn't make it good by default. Take the case of Less Than Jake's cover of You're the One That I Want off of the Grease soundtrack. Just so terrible and bad and really upsetting because I like Less Than Jake. I know a lot of people will scoff at the mention of Grease because it's a musical, but there's a lot of killer tracks on that album. And You're the One That I Want might just be the track off of it, but it didn't need to be covered and it certainly didn't need to be dog shit punkified. It seems like Less Than Jake learned their lesson by covering Surrender by Cheap Trick off of their album Anthem. A song with great rock energy to begin with, but who knew that you could punkify it and it would be fantastic. So You're the One That I Want by Less Than Jake is F tier, but Surrender, good cover, A tier. I think a lot of what goes into the novelty of covers are how many years are between the original and the remake. Because as a general audience, I think we can get a lot out of hearing new, fresh sounds being put into a song that was made 30 or 40 years ago. But it seems like back in the day that people made covers basically the same year that the song came out. Or at least they didn't wait nearly as long. Take the case of Duran Duran's cover of Fame, originally by David Bowie. The original by David Bowie is just a fantastic dance song that was probably a disco sellout, but we're not going to talk about that. And so Duran Duran took David Bowie's original 1970s dance style song and made it into a 1980s dance style song, albeit with much more electronic sound and some different rhythms. Only 6 years after the original had been released. And all for the better because I actually prefer the Duran Duran cover over the original David Bowie. A tier. And David Bowie isn't a person who's afraid of covers either. He covered the Beach Boys' God Only Knows, and I really, really wish he didn't. What I'd be without you. God only knows why David Bowie thought that this one was a good idea. Again, here we can talk about the novelty of it because it doesn't sound anything like the original does, but for all of the worst reasons. This might be one of the only David Bowie songs that I'll ever put on the F tier of any list that I make. And we'll sandwich David Bowie in between two David Bowie covers with our next one, Nirvana's The Man Who Sold the World. This was, of course, off of the notorious and legendary Nirvana Unplugged performance for MTV. Although if I am only one person with one opinion, which I am not because I have a lot of wrong opinions, I think the Alice in Chains Unplugged is the best Unplugged. I'm not the biggest Nirvana guy. That said, their cover of Man Who Sold the World is perfectly fine, and I'd even say better than David Bowie's original. Especially in that live setting, I think it was just much more raw and just good. A tier. Keeping up with the theme of covering classic rock, we have Limp Bizkit's cover of Behind Blue Eyes. What it's like to be hated. And whatever happened to the general consensus around Limp Bizkit? When I was growing up, there were a couple Limp Bizkit songs I enjoyed listening to, but then I got peer pressured into not listening to Limp Bizkit because they quote-unquote sucked. Wherever you fall on your opinion of Limp Bizkit as of now, there's no mistake that they've seen a huge resurgence in their popularity. Although I did go to a festival last summer where Limp Bizkit happened to be, and it was the most annoying set I've ever seen, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't fun. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this cover. And I was quite scared when I found that they had a cover of Behind Blue Eyes because, well, despite what people think about my opinion of The Who in my classic rock tier list video, I do think that The Who is an exceptional band. Maybe I rank them a little low. I'll admit that. But I was scared in the sense that I thought they were going to turn it into this terrible rap rock soup. And instead, they gave us a cover that I think is better than the original. That's right, in a weird way, Limp Bizkit is better than The Who. Because they don't ever go into a rap rock breakdown, they play it almost as if it's a ballad. Actually, I'll put that stamp of approval right now. It is a ballad. I don't know if we've ever seen Fred Durst more sincere in his whole life by copying somebody else's music. As far as expectations go, this one blew me away. Is it the best? No. In fact, it's B tier, but damn, a lot better than I would have given it credit for. Now, you might be in the comments saying like, oh, how dare they cover The Who? Oh, how dare they cover David Bowie? And you may be one of those people who thinks it's sacrilege and blasphemy that people would ever attempt to cover the Beatles. And I'm not going to bore you with the very extensive list of Beatles covers, but I'm going to give you what I think might be the best Beatles cover. That is Helter Skelter by Thrice. The original recording of Helter Skelter must have been so scary for people in the 1960s to hear for the first time because it was so much harder and heavier and aggressive than a lot of the stuff that was out there. So I was very glad to see that Thrice, a more modern rock band, took the opportunity to absolutely rock the fuck out on this song. I think if the Beatles had the production standards and tools that were available to them today, this is what Helter Skelter probably would have sounded like. Just an incredibly satisfying cover. S tier. Next, we're going to talk about U2's cover of Fortunate Son, originally by Creedence Clearwater Revival. It's going into F tier because it's fucking terrible. I think what helps me hate this cover in particular is that it's U2 covering it, because Bono, in my opinion, is just a very performative activist. Sure, he'll put his money where his mouth is most of the time, but it really hurts me to hear it because he's richer than God and is covering a song that was commenting on the social divide and economic divide of the 1960s. I don't know, this song, I can just see Bono sniffing his own farts with this, and also the song itself just sucks. It's really, really bad. And just to let you guys know that I'm keeping myself honest here, I'm going to talk favorably on a band that I hate. With Red Hot Chili Peppers' cover of Higher Ground, originally by Stevie Wonder. Red Hot Chili Peppers might be the band on the top of my music shit list. I think they are avant-garde at best. I don't want to live in California, and Anthony Kiedis makes it so I never want to visit California. But there's no denying the fact that the Red Hot Chili Peppers did a better job than most at combining funk and rock and roll. In here, they're obviously playing into their inspirations and making an homage to Stevie Wonder. I'm putting it in C tier because they didn't have to do it, but there are a lot of people I know that enjoy this cover in particular, so I guess it's not all that bad. And it was in the Power Rangers movie. Moving on to a band that I never thought truly ever got their flowers, we have the Parquet Courts cover of These Boots, originally by Nancy Sinatra.
Now someone else is getting all your best.
It's a cover that doesn't really deviate too far away from the original sound and vibe of the original, but the Parquet Courts do a good job at throwing in some attitude that wasn't there originally. They bring it down to a level to where it sounds more garage bandy, or perhaps just a song that's really suited in a smaller rock venue, all the while staying true to the original. A tier. Next up is a song that I don't know why people like or why it's on the radio. It's Alien Ant Farm's cover of Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson. So bad. So F tier. No. Look, it's hard to defend Michael Jackson, okay? It's hard. But when it comes to covering one of his best tracks, why would you take a planet-sized dookie on it? And why do radio stations keep playing it, reminding me that it exists? Moving on, we have Sheryl Crow's cover of Sweet Child of Mine, originally by Guns N' Roses.
Oh, sweet child of
When I was doing research for this tier list, a lot of people said that this was one of the worst covers they had ever heard, but it really isn't that bad. It seems that this was just supposed to be a tie-in song for the soundtrack of Big Daddy, at least that's what the music video suggests. And it's nowhere near better than the original, but I'd say for about 80% of the song, it's just fine. I think they could have just completely done without the part of the song that's supposed to have a guitar solo instead of just really mid-instrumentals, but I digress. Not that bad. C tier. Next, we're going to talk about two projects that cover Led Zeppelin. First up, we have Tool's cover of No Quarter. Tool included this cover on their elusive album Salival, and I just say it's elusive because it's not on Spotify. If you really want it, you can go find it. The album also features a lot of live covers of some of their recorded songs, but I think Tool does an exceptional job of taking everything that made the original No Quarter and turning it into something even more beautiful. Again, I'm biased here. I love Tool. Just check out the last video I made if you don't believe me. But I think that this is an S tier cover. And we're going to kind of break tradition with the next thing we're going to talk about because it's not just one cover song. It's an entire album. Of course, we're talking about when Train covered all of Led Zeppelin 2. I found out that this was a thing on a recent live stream that I did when reacting to song recommendations. Pay attention to when I announce that coming out. It's a lot of fun. And I was skeptical and angry at the same time. But it's not the worst thing in the world. Did I really think that the band who made Hey Soul Sister was going to do a great job at covering Led Zeppelin 2? No, but it's not that bad. And in particular, I really do like their style on Ramble On. I think they just add some more guitar flair in there that wasn't in the original. But for a band that doesn't really have much of an edge like Train, it was a severe undertaking to cover Led Zeppelin 2, and they did a decent job. C tier. And actually, while we're at it, we'll talk about another cover album. Weezer's Teal album. No, stop. Shut up. D tier. And we're going to break away from ranking songs real quick to just throw out an honorable mention. Those who've clicked on this video or maybe identify themselves as cover connoisseurs, as it were, might be familiar with one Richard Cheese. He basically covers any song in any genre and turns it into like a club lounge piano singer. I mean, just listen to a couple of these examples.
Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up.
7 days a week.
I can't really say that this style can really ever be one of my daily drivers, but the novelty is there, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about him at all. Next up, we have Taylor Swift's cover of September by Earth, Wind & Fire.
Hearts were ringing in the key that our souls.
This one really upsets me. Not because it's Taylor Swift and I'm going to be an edgelord and say that Taylor Swift sucks because it's Taylor Swift, because I do genuinely believe that she's got some real bangers in there. And this is a cover from earlier in her career, but it didn't need to happen. Like, talk about a song that's perfect just the way it is. She didn't need to go all sad girl acoustic guitar on us. Like, it's frustrating to listen to, folks. I'm going to be honest with you. I've listened to all these songs on this tier list as a way to make sure I understood where my position was, and I couldn't get through this one. F tier. Round out that concept that I brought up earlier of reggae bands covering songs that were not reggae at all, we have the Toots and the Maytals cover of Country Road by John Denver. S tier all the way. They don't try to do too much here other than make a country song with simple chords into a reggae song with simple chords, but it doesn't make a ton of sense to say West Virginia. So they do take some liberties at really making the geographic setting a little bit more relatable. So instead of West Virginia, we have West Jamaica. I think part of what makes this cover so good is that the soul of the original, the heart of it, is not lost at all and completely retained. It's really, when it comes down to it, are you more of a country fan or are you more of a reggae fan? Because both of these versions are just as good. S tier. Next up, we have a song that I was kind of shocked to learn was a cover, just because the cover is that good. We're talking about Soft Cell's covers of Tainted Love and Where Did Our Love Go by Gloria Jones and the Supremes, respectively.
I feel I've got to run away.
If you're unfamiliar with this song, first of all, shame on you, but it might be a little misleading to include this as one song, but Tainted Love released a cut which is both of these covers on one track. I had no idea that Tainted Love was a cover at all. To me, it had always been just a quintessential 80s pop song. And to reference the question of what are the best transitions of all time that I brought up in my last video, I think the transition between Tainted Love into their cover of Where Did Our Love Go is one of the best and stacks up very well with Parable Parabola. And to get to the heart of it, this really was Soft Cell's biggest hit, but it's done so well that I can't even shame them for their biggest hit being a cover. They transcend it into something else, and for that, we thank them mightily. S tier. Another song that might surprise you being a cover was Joan Jett's cover of I Love Rock and Roll. It was originally done by a band called The Arrows in 1975. I think we can put the Joan Jett version in A tier just because it is so similar to the original, and it's not like the original's bad at all, and everybody loves this song from Joan Jett. But I don't think everybody loves this song from Britney Spears. Which I don't know why, because it does sound so similar to Joan Jett's version and the version by the Arrows. Like, none of these songs are completely different from one another. I guess people could argue that the Britney Spears version was just the cheap way to get money. You know, you're covering a recognizable song and it's a way to give a pop star a rock edge. So maybe it's a little low effort in that regard. But all of my videos are low effort, so I can kind of identify with that. Britney Spears version, B tier, not terrible. Another cover that a lot of people say is terrible is Aerosmith's cover of Come Together by the Beatles. Coca-Cola, and again, I don't know why people think it's that bad. Obviously, it's not as good as the original, and credit to the haters, Aerosmith didn't really do that great of a job at making the song their own, but it was really just made to be a part of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band movie soundtrack, which is something I would love to talk about in a separate video if you guys want me to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, it's mid, C tier, I guess. I guess I can meet you guys halfway in the middle. And finally, the cover that's better than any other cover is Anything by Mambo Kurt.
Some of those that were forces are the same that run crosses. You've been Zamba's tried. Zamba, do you have the time to listen to me whine?
It's over. He won art. It's done. Nobody needs to do any more for the rest of history. And there it is, folks, our first run through the ultimate covers tier list. Do you agree with me? Do you hate my guts? Do you want me to talk about more covers? Let me know down in the comments. Also, as a small bit of housekeeping, I've really been enjoying going live and reacting to a lot of your guys' song recommendations, so keep an eye out on my community tab as I'll be making posts announcing when the next time I'll go live, and I'd love to see you there. With that said, I've been Jerry Bees. You've been awesome. Take it easy.
Diggity dog. Breaking. Diggity dog.
Where am I? In Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. But that's for you, Little Uzi. A GG bust and a GG poster.
Is ecstasy legal here?